I'm going to start off with one of my all-time favorite instruments that I made during Instrument a Day. And as you can see, I use the term instrument very loosely. Some of these things are instruments only in the most abstract sense, but I'm going to plug in these lights here. This is based on a memory I have from when I was about 5 years old at my lying on the floor underneath my parents' Christmas tree around Christmas time. And we had the Christmas tree covered with blinky lights, and I discovered that I could actually hear the sound of the Christmas lights blinking on and off. And the reason for that is that before LED lights were common with little chips in them that make them blink on and off, these old-fashioned lights, the way they blink is they actually have a tiny thermometer inside. So when the light turns on, it slowly gets hotter and hotter until it gets hot enough that the thermometer, the thermostat, which is a small piece of metal, the metal goes tink and flicks off, and that turns off the light. And then after a few seconds, it cools off enough that this little piece of metal gets cold and it goes tink back to the original position. And it makes a tiny, tiny little sound, which is almost imperceptible, but it's also, if you can hear it, one of the most beautiful sounds that I can think of. So what I've done is I have a string of Christmas lights here that I've wired up with very sensitive microphones, but even so, I have to crank it up really high, and it's still not quite audible, but let's give that a try and see if it works. So it takes a while for them to heat up and start to blink. Unfortunately, over the years, my Christmas lights have been burning out. I haven't bought new ones yet, and my microphones are getting older, so there's going to be more hum and less tinkle sound, but I hope you can all hear it.
Yeah.
When you're catching a cold, it's a bad idea to bring an instrument that has to be played with bare feet, but this is an electronic instrument. I don't know how, some of you can see it here on the floor. This is based on a 19th century instrument that was popular in Belgium called the basse, or foot bass, which was basically a foot accordion that you could, while you're playing your accordion with your hands, you could play bass notes with your foot accordion. So this is an electronic version of the basse, but it uses skin sensors, so I have to take my socks off to play it. Unfortunately, not all these instruments are entirely practical, but they can be a lot of fun to play. And then one more, which I'd very much like to show because it's really interesting to contrast it with Schuyler's interpretation of the same instrument. This is a tromba marina, more or less. There's a, I don't remember exactly, maybe 16th or 17th century instrument called the tromba marina that I saw at the musical instrument collection at the Met Museum. And it's just one of the strangest instruments ever. It's this huge bass violin with a single string and a weird hinged bridge. And it was called the tromba marina or trumpet marine because it actually is supposed to, when played properly, sound like a trumpet rather than a stringed instrument. And it sounds like a trumpet because you play the harmonics just like a trumpet rather than playing just a fretted string, you play the harmonics on the string. And because it has that special bridge that buzzes while you play it, that sounds like the blatting sound of a trumpet. So this is my version of the tromba marina, and later you'll see Schuyler's version, which is completely different and yet is totally also a really neat interpretation of the original tromba marina. And this thing is made out of a 1x2 and a cello string and an old styrofoam cooler as a resonator. I have a contact microphone on it here, and hopefully I can get some nice sounds out of it. I just want to go back to lecture mode for a moment and point out that a skilled tromba marina player can actually play a full scale using just these tiny little overtones here, which of course I'm not a skilled tromba marina player. So I think that's going to be all from you for now, but I'll join Schuyler and Larry later for the jam. Thank you.